The silence that has permeated your life over the last few weeks was not an absence of sound, but the heavy, expectant atmosphere of a cosmic courtroom awaiting the final entrance of the judge. You have been under a spiritual subpoena, summoned to a high-level hearing that you didn't even know was taking place in the higher dimensions of your own existence. 4 years, you have lived under the weight of an invisible litigation, a constant series of accusations, delays, and character assassinations that seemed to follow you regardless of your intentions. You felt as though you were on trial for a crime you didn't commit, forced to defend your light against a system that thrives on darkness. But the spiritual urgency of this Friday morning is the signal that the trial is officially over. The judge, that personification of absolute, no-nonsense truth and divine justice, has just slammed the gavel down. The verdict has been reached, the transcript has been sealed, and the decree is absolute. The ruling has been made in your favor, and the consequences of this decision are already rippling through the corridors of power, triggering a massive wave of resignations among the Watchers who once thought they held your fate in their hands. You must understand that the Chosen One path is not just a journey of personal growth, but a rigorous legal process in the spirit realm. When you were called out of the ordinary, you were effectively removed from the jurisdiction of the common world and placed under the direct supervision of the High Court of Heaven. The enemy, acting as the ultimate pro se prosecutor, has been filing motion after motion against your destiny. He has presented exhibits of your past mistakes, affidavits of your moments of doubt, and testimony from the people who tried to break you. To the naked eye, it looked like you were just having a run of bad luck, but in the spirit, you were being cross-examined. The pressure you felt in your chest, the anxiety that woke you up at 3 a.m., and the inexplicable feeling of being stuck were the tactical maneuvers of an adversary trying to get you to settle out of court. He wanted you to sign a plea deal with mediocrity, to accept a life of less than in exchange for the cessation of the battle. But because you refused to settle, because you maintained your integrity even when the evidence of your life seemed to point toward failure, you forced the case to its final conclusion. They saw the struggle, but they didn't see the protection. Comment 333. If you are the chosen one of your bloodline. The judge in this final battle is not a figure of soft sentimentality, but a piercing authority that sees through every lie, every mask, and every fraudulent claim made by the adversary. Imagine the sharp, unwavering focus of a celestial authority that has no patience for baloney, who cuts through the he said she said of the spirit realm, and who demands to see the receipts. The enemy tried to present a file of your failures, but the judge looked at the blood code on the cover and realized the debt had already been paid. The adversary tried to argue that you are unqualified, but the judge looked at your suffering assets and ruled that you are overqualified. This Friday morning marks the moment the court record is updated to reflect your new standing. You are no longer the defendant of your own life. You have been promoted to the beneficiary of the kingdom. When the ruling was handed down in your favor, it wasn't just a quiet, not guilty verdict. It was a total dismissal of the enemy's entire case with prejudice, meaning he can never file these same charges against you again. The file that the global elite were monitoring, the one that caused them to resign in fear, was the transcript of this ruling. They saw that the highest authority in existence has officially recognized your sovereignty. They realized that they no longer have the legal standing to monitor your frequency, tax your energy, or interfere with your manifestations. The resignation of those in power is the sound of the old world's legal team packing their bags and fleeing the courtroom. They know that when a chosen one is ruled in favor of, the entire system of exploitation must be dismantled to make room for the new decree. The enemy's primary exhibit was your history of trauma, which he tried to use as evidence that you are spiritually bankrupt and mentally unstable. He argued that because you were broken in the past, you cannot be a leader in the future. But the judge saw through the deception. She saw that every wound was actually a security deposit on your future authority. She ruled that your pain was not a liability, but prepaid wisdom. The ruling stated that for every year you spent in the wilderness, you are now entitled to 10 years of accelerated manifestation. This is the divine restitution that is being released this Friday morning. The enemy is being ordered to pay back everything he stole from you, the time, the health, the joy, and the relationships, with interest. The atmospheric heaviness you feel is the marshal of heaven arriving to seize the assets of the darkness and transfer them into your account. In the final hours before the gavel fell, the enemy was allowed one last cross-examination of your resolve. This is why the last 48 hours have felt so intense, almost as if you were being baited into a reaction. The adversary was trying to get you to commit perjury of the soul, to speak words that contradict your divine calling. He wanted you to look at the lack in your physical world and say, "I am not chosen." He wanted you to look at your solitude and say, "I am abandoned." But the dossier on your spirit documented that you remained silent. You didn't take the bait. You didn't argue with the liar. You simply stood in your truth. This silence of the sovereign was the final piece of evidence the judge needed. It proved that you have moved beyond the need for external validation and that you are ready to handle the weight of the verdict. The ruling in your favor is an injunction against the forces of delay. For years, you felt like there was a cease and desist order on your blessings. You would get close to the finish line, only for the door to be slammed in your face. The judge has identified this as illegal interference. She has ruled that the red tape of the spirit realm, the ancestral blockages and the karmic loops, is to be cut immediately. Starting this Friday morning, the flow of your life is being restored to its original, unhindered state. The resignation of the worldly leaders was their way of getting out of the blast zone. They know that when the divine courtroom issues a writ of execution, nothing on earth can stop the delivery of the promise. You are now under the protection of celestial immunity. One of the most profound aspects of this ruling is the reclamation of property. In the spirit realm, your peace, your joy, and your creativity are considered real estate. The enemy has been squatting on your land, occupying the spaces of your mind that were meant for vision and rest. He turned your mind into a construction zone of anxiety and your heart into a storage unit for old regrets. The ruling from the judge is a formal eviction. The darkness is being removed from your mental and emotional property. The high-level file on your existence showed that your internal landscape is now being rezoned for high-rise manifestation. You are being given the deed to your own peace. The global elite who saw your file realized that you are about to inherit a spiritual estate that is larger than their entire system. They saw that you are not just a person, but a trust that is finally maturing. The resignation of those in power was an admission that they can no longer tax your light or lease your energy for their own agendas. You have become debt-free in every sense of the word, karmically, emotionally, and spiritually. This Friday morning, the keys are being handed over. You don't need to fight for the land anymore. The court has already ruled that it belongs to you. Start acting like the owner, not the tenant. Stop asking for permission to be happy, to be wealthy, or to be powerful. The judge has already given you the right of way. The people who have been watching you, the critics, the silent observers, and the energetic parasites, are now being served with a restraining order from the divine court. They have been ruled as irrelevant to your next season. The judge has looked at their testimony and found it to be hearsay and conjecture. She has struck their opinions from the record of your life. This is why you feel a sudden, cold distance from people who used to be close. It is not an accident. It is the clearing of the courtroom. Only the authorized personnel are allowed to be in the room for the handover of assets. The high-level resignation was a signal that the old guard has been dismissed. They are no longer allowed to witness your process or benefit from your presence. The atmospheric shift you sense is the security detail of heaven arriving to enforce the ruling. You are being cordoned off for your own protection. The enemy is trying to shout one last insult from the hallway as he is being escorted out, but his voice is fading. He has no more legal standing in your life. The ruling in your favor is a permanent decree. It cannot be appealed, it cannot be overturned, and it cannot be ignored. The systemic panic you see in the world is the result of the legal precedent you have just set. Because you won your case, other chosen ones are now finding the courage to file their own claims of sovereignty. You have become the lead plaintiff in the class action suit against the darkness. The final part of the ruling involves damages. In any major court case, when the defendant is found to have been wronged, they are awarded damages. The judge has looked at the emotional toll the last 7 years have taken on you. She has looked at the opportunities lost due to the enemy's interference. And she has awarded you treble damages, 3 times the amount of what was stolen. This is the transfer of wealth that has been prophesied. It is not just about money, it is a transfer of influence, health, and spiritual authority. The high-level file documented that you are a low-risk, high-reward conduit for the divine. Therefore, the assets of the kingdom are being redirected toward your projects, your family, and your vision. The resignation of the worldly leaders was their way of trying to liquidate their own influence before the market of the spirit crashes. They see that the value of the old world is dropping, while the value of the chosen ones is skyrocketing. This Friday morning, the closing documents are being signed. You are stepping into a season of unearned favor, which is the spirit realm's version of a settlement check. You didn't work for this, you won it through the trial of your faith. You are being compensated for the wrongful imprisonment of your potential. The gates are opening, and the escrow of heaven is being released into your life. As the sun rises this Friday morning, you must realize that you are walking out of that courtroom a completely different being than the one who walked in. You are no longer under the law of effort. You are under the law of ruling. You don't need to try to be chosen. You just need to be the verdict. The high-level file on your life has been marked, Case Closed. There is no more evidence to be gathered, no more testimony to be heard, and no more arguments to be made. The judge has ruled. You are who God says you are. You have what God says you have. And you can do what God says you can do. The adversary is no longer your prosecutor. He is just a convicted liar whose reputation is ruined in your atmosphere. You're not here by chance. Feel the pull. Tap join to unlock truth, purpose, and a tribe that gets it. This is more than a membership. It's your calling. The structural integrity of the adversary's kingdom depends entirely on your willingness to misinterpret the nature of your own internal dialogue. In this phase of the final battle, the adversary has pivoted from external chaos to the war of the whispers, attempting to convince you that the thoughts of doubt you are currently experiencing are your own original ideas rather than foreign intrusions. The density of this warning is vital because the deception is subtle. It uses the pronoun I to make you claim the enemy's failure as your own. It whispers, I am tired, I am not ready, or I will never make it, hoping you will finalize the contract by speaking those words into existence. But the high-level file on your life documented that your declaration authority is now at its peak. This Friday morning, the words you speak carry the weight of spiritual law. The resignation of the global leaders was a reaction to the realization that they can no longer override your no. They saw that when you refuse a frequency, it simply ceases to exist in your field. This level of sovereignty is what the enemy is trying to contest by making you agree with his whispers. The final battle is the battle to maintain the identity of the victor, even when the feelings of the victim are shouting the loudest. The primary tactic right now is to flood your atmosphere with hyperstimulation. He wants your mind racing, your heart pounding, and your attention fragmented across a dozen different anxieties. He knows that a chosen one who is focused is a chosen one who is unstoppable. By creating a storm of mental noise, he hopes to drown out the still small voice of your final instructions. But the urgency of this message is a call to aggressive stillness. Just as a hurricane has a peaceful eye at its center, you are being called to occupy the center of your own power while the old world spins into chaos around you. The resignation of those in power was their admission that they can no longer distract the remnant from their true purpose. Furthermore, the adversary is attempting to use the spirit of false responsibility. He is trying to make you feel like the weight of the entire world, or your entire family, rests solely on your shoulders. He wants you to carry a burden that only the Creator is qualified to bear, hoping the weight will crush your joy and stall your manifestation. The file revealed that your calling is to be a conduit, not a source. You are the pipe, not the water. The final battle is the battle to relinquish control. You are being taught to trust the invisible hands that are working behind the scenes. The resignation of the earthly authorities was a sign that the old management has been fired, and the divine administration has taken over. This Friday morning, the resources you have been praying for are being released from a treasury that the enemy cannot access. He is trying to get you to look at your empty pockets so you don't look at the full heavens. Stay in the expectation of grace. You are not responsible for the miracle. You are only responsible for the alignment. The high-level resignations were your confirmation that the old way of struggle is officially over. The adversary is also the master of the last-minute accusation, trying to bring up a sin or a mistake from your distant past that you have already processed and moved on from. He wants to see if he can trigger a relapse into shame. He knows that shame is a frequency that grounds you in the dense reality, preventing you from ascending to the higher authority of the chosen. But the high-level dossier on your soul showed that your past has been transformed into wisdom. What the enemy calls a stain, the Father calls a scar of honor. The final battle is the battle to forgive yourself as completely as you have been forgiven. If you still hold a grudge against your old self, you are still giving the enemy a seat at your table. This Friday morning, the table is being cleared of all old business. The enemy is trying to serve you a subpoena for a case that has already been dismissed. Throw it away. You are no longer that person. The resignation of those in power was the signal that the prosecution has no more witnesses. Consider the magnitude of the moment you are currently inhabiting. You have been chosen for such a time as this because your spirit was deemed durable enough to withstand the cross-examination of the eons. The dossier they kept on you was meant to be a map of your destruction, but in the hands of the divine judge, it became a manifest of your absolute authority. Every time the enemy tried to prove you were less than, he only succeeded in highlighting the depth of your resilience. The resignations of the worldly elite are the ultimate testimony to your victory. They saw the ruling of favor written in the light of your aura, and they realized their jurisdiction had been terminated. They are vacating the seats of influence because they cannot breathe the air of the truth you carry. You are the anomaly that the system could not calculate, the variable that broke the equation of fear. This cosmic ruling is not just about your personal peace, it is about the reestablishment of the divine order on this plane. As a chosen one, your individual victory sends a ripple through the collective consciousness, proving that the chains of the old world are not as strong as they seem. The enemy is currently in a state of frantic retreat, trying to find a corner of the universe where your frequency cannot reach. But there is no hiding from the light of a soul that has been ruled in favor of by the Source. Your journey through the legalities of the Spirit has equipped you with a level of discernment that makes you untouchable. You can see the hooks before they are thrown, you can hear the lies before they are spoken, and you can sense the traps before they are set. This is the sovereign sight that comes with the verdict. You are no longer guessing your way through life. You are ruling your way through it. The Friday morning shift is the official activation of this power. You will find that doors that were locked for decades are now standing wide open. You will find that resources that were hidden are now being placed in your hands. The transition from the seen to the unseen is often marked by a sudden collapse of the social structures that once provided you with a false sense of security. As you approach this Friday morning threshold, you may have noticed a strange and rapid sifting of the people in your inner circle. Connections that once felt permanent are now dissolving with a speed that defies logic. This is not a series of unfortunate accidents. It is a strategic clearing of the battlefield. The adversary knows that as long as you are surrounded by the voices of the old world, he can use them to broadcast his frequency of doubt into your spirit. He uses the opinions of others as a social mirror to keep you trapped in a version of yourself that is small, manageable, and compliant. But the high-level file on your life revealed that you have developed a frequency of immunity to the shame of the crowd. When you stopped caring about the world's perception, you became a ghost to the system's primary method of control. The resignation of the influential figures we discussed was a direct result of this. They realized they no longer possessed the social leverage to keep you in line. The final battle is you versus the lie, because you have finally realized that you do not need an audience to be in authority. The enemy's most insidious tactic in this phase of the confrontation is the weaponization of time. He wants you to look at the calendar and feel a sense of frantic, low-vibrational panic. He points to your age, your bank account, and the missed opportunities of your past to convince you that you are behind schedule. He wants you to believe that the Friday morning window is a desperate, last-ditch effort to save a failing life, rather than the scheduled coronation of a victorious one. But the dossier on your spirit showed that you are operating on kairos time, the time of the divine, rather than chronos time, the linear time of the system. In the realm of the spirit, a single moment of alignment can redeem 40 years of wandering. The enemy is trying to keep you in a scarcity mindset regarding time, because a person who is in a hurry is a person who is easy to trip. By making you feel like you're running out of time, he tricks you into making impulsive, ego-based decisions that pull you off your center. The final battle is the battle to stay in the eternal now, where all power resides. As the countdown continues, realize that the enemy's roars are becoming more desperate because his invisibility shield has been compromised. You have started to see the wires. You have started to see the patterns. You are no longer a victim of bad luck. You are a discerner of spiritual interference. This level of clarity is what the system fears most. A chosen one who can see the lie is a chosen one who can no longer be ruled by it. The final battle is you versus the enemy, because you are the only one in your bloodline who has stayed awake long enough to see the face of the jailer. This Friday morning, you are not just walking out of the cell, you are taking the keys with you. Stay in the observer mode. Do not get emotionally entangled in the enemy's last-minute dramas. He is trying to bait you into a low-vibrational argument or a fear-based reaction. Stay silent. Stay centered. The high-level resignation was the first crack in the dam, and your continued peace is the pressure that will break it wide open. You are moved through the corridors of the spiritual legal system and come out with a decree of absolute freedom. There is no person, no entity, and no system that can challenge the ruling that has been made on this day. The gavel has echoed through the dimensions, announcing your arrival. Your inheritance is not a matter of if, but a matter of when, and that when is starting right now. The record has been set straight, the lies have been expunged, and the truth of your divine nature is the only thing that remains. Walk forward in the quiet, terrifying confidence of someone who knows they have already won. The trial of your life has concluded, and your purpose is finally in session. The era of the litigation is over. The era of the manifestation has begun. Welcome to the life you were always meant to live. The verdict is in, you are the light, and the light has won. Every accusation that was once leveled against your name has been transmuted into a declaration of your strength. You have survived the most rigorous audit in the history of your bloodline. The ancestral archives that once held the records of your family's struggles are now being overwritten with the record of your triumph. This Friday morning, as you step into the light of the sun, remember that you are not just a person, you are a legal precedent. You have proven that the human spirit, when aligned with the divine, is immune to the laws of the shadow. You have set a new standard for what is possible. The Watchers who resigned did so because they could no longer find a way to justify their presence in your life. The gavel's echo has not yet faded from the chambers of the spirit, but the enforcement of the divine decree has already begun in the physical realm. You are currently standing in the transition between the verdict and the execution of the order. While Part 1 established the legal reality of your victory, Part 2 is the manifestation of the damages awarded to you by the High Court of Heaven. This Friday morning, the writ of execution is being served upon every entity, every system, and every person that has illegally held your inheritance in bondage. The judge has ruled that the time of observation is over and the time of restitution is now. The atmospheric heaviness you feel is not a burden. It is the sheer weight of the wealth, spiritual, emotional, and material, that is being transferred back into your jurisdiction. The high-level file on your life has been updated with a seal of absolute protection, and the Watchers who resigned are now witnessing the total collapse of the barriers they spent decades building. You are the chosen one, and this is the hour where the word becomes the world. The execution of this divine order begins with the eviction of the squatter. For generations, a specific frequency of lack, anxiety, and self-doubt has occupied the territory of your mind. It acted as if it owned the land, dictating your limits and taxing your peace. But the judge has looked at the original deed of your soul and found that these frequencies have no legal right to your energy. This Friday morning, the marshals of heaven are physically removing these parasites from your atmosphere. You may feel a sudden violent shift in your internal weather, a purging of old fears and a clearing of the mental fog. This is the spiritual cleaning that precedes the arrival of the king. The enemy is being forced to pack up the lies and leave the premises. Every room of your consciousness is being inspected and sanctified. The ruling stated that you are the sole proprietor of your internal state. No longer will you pay rent to anxiety. No longer will you lease your joy to the opinions of the world. You have been granted the deed of peace, and the eviction is non-negotiable. The high-level file documented that your greatest loss was not financial, but temporal. The enemy stole your time through cycles of delay and unnecessary detours. Therefore, the restitution awarded to you includes a temporal acceleration. The judge has ruled that the years you spent in the wilderness were not a waste, but a high-yield investment. This Friday morning, the interest on that investment is being paid out. You are entering a season where one day will yield the results of a year. The red tape of the old world is being burned away by the fire of the decree. Decisions that used to take months will now be made in minutes. Doors that required decades of knocking will now swing open at the sound of your footsteps. This is the grace of speed. The worldly elite who resigned saw this acceleration coming on the charts of your destiny. They realized they could no longer outrun your manifestation. They fled because they knew that in the execution phase, the chosen one becomes a locomotive that cannot be derailed. One of the most profound aspects of this second part of the verdict is the restoration of the bloodline. The judge did not just rule for you, she ruled for your entire legacy. She looked at the ancestral litigations, the curses and contracts that were signed in ignorance by those who came before you, and she declared them void ab initio. This means they are cancelled as if they never existed. The chains that bound your parents and their parents are being shattered by the gavel of this ruling. You are the chain breaker of the family, and your victory has retroactively freed the potential of your bloodline. This Friday morning, you will feel a lightness in your spirit that you cannot explain. It is the feeling of 1,000 ancestors finally finding rest because you won the case. You are the new legal precedent for your family. From this day forward, the law of your house is the law of favor. Lack is no longer a guest in your home. Struggle is no longer a member of your family tree. The file on your lineage has been purged and rewritten in the light of your triumph. Furthermore, the transfer of assets is now moving into the material plane. The judge has looked at the economic crimes committed against you, the promotions you were denied, the ideas that were stolen, and the resources that were withheld by a rigged system. She has issued a judgment of triple damages. This is not just a promise of someday. This is an active redirection of resources. This Friday morning, you will begin to see the correction of the ledger. Debts will be cancelled, unexpected resources will appear, and the hidden manna of the kingdom will be made available to your vision. The high-level resignations occurred because the elite saw the capital flight from their system into yours. They saw that the energy of resource is leaving the structures of greed and gravitating toward the conduits of purpose. You are a high-value asset in the kingdom, and the court has decided that you can no longer be underfunded. The escrow of heaven is being unlocked, and the payout is commensurate with the level of your calling. The watchers who have been removed were not just observers. They were vibrational anchors, trying to keep you grounded in the lower densities. By their resignation, the judge has officially blinded the eye of the enemy in your direction. They can no longer see your next move. You have been moved into a witness protection program of the Spirit. The adversary is currently searching for the old you in the old places, but you are not there. You have been relocated to the Palace of Authority. This Friday morning, you will realize that you no longer care what the critics think, because the judge's opinion is the only one that carries the force of law. The restraining order is in full effect. Every person who tried to block your path is now legally barred from entering your new jurisdiction. If they try to cross the line, they will encounter the wall of fire that protects the sovereign. You are finally, legally, and spiritually safe. Consider the nature of divine restitution. It is not just the return of what was lost, but the addition of what would have been if the loss had never occurred. The judge has calculated your projected growth and added it to your current balance. You are not just getting your joy back. You are getting the joy of a person who has never been broken. You are not just getting your health back. You are getting the vitality of a person who has never been tired. This is the resurrection frequency. This Friday morning, you are being reissued your life in its highest possible form. The high-level file on your existence now reflects a perfect credit score in the spirit realm. You have unlimited access to the treasury of grace. The resignation of those in power was their way of admitting that they can no longer compete with a being who has the full backing of the throne. You are no longer a participant in the economy of struggle. You are a citizen of the economy of glory. The structural integrity of your new life is being reinforced by the seal of finality. The enemy has a habit of trying to reopen cases, filing appeals of doubt and motions of regret. But the judge has marked your file non-appealable. The verdict is final. The case is closed. The gavel has been put away. This Friday morning, you must learn to live as a person whose victory is law. When a thought of fear comes, you must answer it with the verdict. When a feeling of lack arises, you must respond with the decree. You are no longer trying to win. You are enforcing the win. This is the shift from warrior to ruler. The high-level resignations were the signal that the war phase of your life is over. You have moved into the governance phase. Your job now is to manage the blessing, to steward the influence, and to expand the territory of the light. The devil is no longer your opponent. He is just a convicted trespasser who is afraid of your voice.